What's up guys, Phoenix here. This video is going to be another video of something that I haven't done in a really long time, and that is a building on budget deck profile video of taking the Magician Pendulum structure decks, adding a little bit of extra cards that are overall low in terms of price, and making a cohesive deck out of it that can be built off of and worked with. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because I have a very cheap group of friends. And they will be unnamed, but they know who they are, because some of them watch my videos. And they called me the day that this deck came out, and they were like, Tyler, I know you probably have a build that doesn't use either Bunbunku, Arch Phoenix-centric, Luster Pendulum, or Miss Valley Apex Avian. They're like, I'm not trying to spend money on these cards, so do you have a build that you can share with me that doesn't use any of these cards and is really cheap? Because I just want to play with pendulums, but I don't want to actually put money into it. And I was like, alright, well, you're going to have a hard time actually, winning a lot of the time, because the other people that have these cards are going to be playing better overall decks than you. And they're like, that's fine, I just want to play pendulums. I was like, alright, I got you. So, thus this deck was born. I started testing around with it and just trying to keep the cost as low as possible. And this is ultimately what I came up with. Ultimately, this is meant to be just a starting point if anyone wants to just test this deck out and doesn't want to throw tons of money into it for, like, the aforementioned 4 cards that are expensive as hell. Like, each one of these cards is at least $30 a piece. But, if for those of you that don't want to commit money to those and you actually just want to play this deck IRL, this is a build that I've been working on and working with, and it's been working pretty well. It can obviously be dressed up with more expensive cards based off what your money availabilities are and stuff like that. But enough rambling on. The monster count, there's 25 monsters. For the magicians, there's a triple Dragon Pit Magician and 1 Dragon Pulse Magician. I've never found myself needing more than 1. Triple Oath Dragon Magician, triple Wisdom Eye Magician, and 2 of the Tuner Noble Dragon Magician. That is 12 Magician monsters, and it's pretty much a standard lineup. I mean, even though this is a budget build, you pretty much don't deviate from what these have. Like, the fact that this is an MST, this outs monster removal is really good. These just generate advantage through looping. This makes Pendulum Call and discarding for Dragon Pit free. Also opens up Synchro plays and rank 7 plays through Odd Eyes. There's a lot of different factors that go into this card being really good. And this card obviously just gets better and better as, like, your funds for this deck open up and what you're able to put in the extra deck. But I kept it very simple for this video. For the remaining monsters, triple Perform Pal Skull Crobat Joker, it's a staple 3 of. Triple Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. This card just puts out a lot of damage, and if you're not playing any of the other cards like Apex Avian and stuff like that, this card just takes a much bigger role in terms of what you're trying to do with your extra deck cards like Meteor Burst and Absolute Dragon, and trying to loop cards around, as well as dealing with, like, gaining advantage. This deck is going to be trying to be oriented towards gaining as much advantage as quickly as possible. Thus, Odd Eyes is a staple 3 of, in my opinion, even though technically, like, it's really slow in terms of an overall card, but because you can just pendulum it out with this deck and it's like free interaction and free advantage off of like Sky Iris and things like that, that it's just, overall, I really like Odd Eyes, and it's a really decent beater for this deck to have, especially if you're trying to build it budget. And it's just being another level 7 that you just pendulum out freely, and also, as I already mentioned, loop around with Meteor Burst and Absolute Dragon is really cool. 2 copies of Gigabyte just to add some extra rank 4 access. I mean, just to allow this deck to have a lot more of a standalone play outside of the Pendulum Summon. Being able to combine this with, like, summoning a Joker and then special this and make a rank 4 and stuff like that, just to clear away threats. Just make this deck a little bit stronger at dealing with problems and issues and all that jazz. But the last 5 monsters are part of a small Magispector engine that I'm running in here. 2 Kirins, 1 Fox, and a double Cat. I put Cat in here because it's technically the cheaper alternative to Bunbunku. But obviously, if you have access to Bunbunku, I would definitely be playing these over Cats, just because it's basically the same card, just faster and better. But this was cheap enough that I felt like it should be included. It could be included just to give you more access into these cards, because this card is very good defensively. For those of you that don't know what Unicorn Kirin does, it can't be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects, which is also huge, but it's also just a Pleiades, by bouncing pendulum monsters. You target one face-up pendulum monster that you control, and then a monster your opponent controls, and you bounce them each to the hand. That's during either player's turn. And so what that does is you can pendulum this out, and you can just like use it to just interact with your opponent in that way. But also, like, it's just really nifty in bouncing a Skullcrobat Joker to your hand, because this is a when normal summoned only effect. Even though it is a pendulum monster, you can pendulum it out with the Kieran if they're like both in your extra deck, and then just immediately use Kieran to bounce one of your opponent's monsters and bounce Joker to your hand, and then normal summon it and get the plus back again. Overall, it's just a nice amount of synergy that a lot of people actually just play in the real version of this deck, and I actually really am a fan of that. And I really like this card in general. I really like the fact that it's basically just Pleiades, but it's better than Pleiades in the form that, like, it can't be outed by 90% of card effects in the game at the current point in time. It's really cool in that regard. But that was 25 monsters for spells. There are 13 of them, I think. Triple Pendulum Call, just because you want to be getting to your cards as quick as possible. The little field spell engine that I have of 2 Sky Iris, 2 Chicken Game, and triple Terraforming. Now, I do this in a lot of decks, and it all goes back to the same theory of this field spell is really good, and you want to see it as much as possible, but you never want to see multiples of it. Whereas Chicken Game, you want to see it, but you also want to see a different field spell with it, so that you can play it over the Chicken Game, and you got the draw, but your opponent doesn't get to plus off of your own Chicken Game. So, that is the purpose of this little 7-card thing. You have a lot of Terraformings and a lot of Chicken Games, you have a lot of Sky Irises, and the chances of you drawing 2 Sky Irises together without seeing a Terraforming instead of the second Sky Iris is very, very low. Basically, I've just worked it out to where the probability of opening Sky Iris and either Sky Iris and Chicken Game, any combination of Terraformings or whatever, is just really good, and it gives you 5 overall copies of either one, depending on what you need in any specific situation. Technically, like, it's 5 copies of Sky Iris, and then just like 2 copies of Chicken Game, but then every single one of these turns into a Chicken Game once you already have Sky Iris, and that's really cool. I really like that. And I wanted to play the second Sky Iris for the situations where, like, you have Sky Iris and then you end up just drawing into combinations of these. That way you can get a second Sky Iris if needed, also if it gets outed by spell and trap removal. Just little things like that. I like to combine this little, like, overlap engine into basically everything now, where the field spell is good but not good enough to see multiples of. Just a little something that I just do. And I've gotten into a habit of it, and I don't know if it's correct or not, but it's been working for me. So, I mean, I guess there's merit in that. Triple Wavering Eyes. I feel like you need to run this if you're playing any sort of pendulum strategy. This will just give you, like, edges in the pendulum mirrors, whether it's magicians or whatnot. If you aren't running this, you're at such a huge disadvantage. So, like, it just needed to be in the deck list. Unfortunately, I really hate this card. Like, I've explained it many times before, and I'm not going to go on it again, or else this video will be like 20 minutes long. But I hate Wavering Eyes. I wish it was never printed, and Jesus Christ. That's about it. But the only 2 traps in this deck are 2 copies of Magispector Tempest. You actually have a lot more targets for this than you would think. I know there's only 5 Magispector monsters in the main deck, which are the 2 unicorns, the fox, and the 2 cats. But this card is going to... That's why I run the 1 fox, so I can search one of these 2 if it's, you know, available. But these are also made live by pendulum summoning out Oath Dragon, because Oath Dragon is a wind spellcaster, and not a lot of people actually realize this. And so it's live by penduluming this out, and this is such an easy card to access with Pendulum Call, with your Insight Magician plays, or Wisdom Eye. I keep calling it Insight Magician, because that's its OCG name. But with Wisdom Eye, you get this into circulation really quickly with the normal Wisdom Eye plays. With Pendulum Call, it gets in circulation quickly. So even if you draw these without any of your Magispector engine, or you didn't search it off Fox, like, this card just being pendulum summoned on the field makes it live. So it's basically like whatchamacallit? What am I trying to say? The 6th, 7th, and 8th Magispector, while also just being a really large quantity because of the way the deck operates and how it just gets things out. And honestly, this was probably just like the best trap that I could see myself running in this, besides like Emptiness and Warning. But overall, like, if I was trying to fit in a small Magispector engine in here to try and make the deck as coherent as possible and, you know, impactful as possible without running cards like Luster Pendulum and Apex Avian and Bunbunku, then this was just a card I wanted to include, just because it punishes people that just pendulum blindly and things like that. It's just probably the most relevant trap right now that you could play in this deck. The extra deck is only 10 cards, just because, like, I didn't want to fill it out with things like Draco Sack and Big Eye, because those are obviously they're not budget oriented cards, and based off your own availability with money, of course. Like I said, you can just update this, and like there's no Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon in here either, even though the deck could easily support it. But anyway, 2 copies of Odd Eyes Meteor Burst Dragon and 2 copies of Absolute Dragon. I like 2 of each of these, even in regular like full-blown Odd Eyes Magician variants, simply because this is just a bigger Utopia, and it brings back Odd Eyes cards from grave, including this, as well as Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragons that you overlaid into this, so it keeps getting those back. As well as when this goes to the graveyard, if it's sent to the graveyard from field in any way, you get to special summon an Odd Eyes monster from your extra deck. So you can summon Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragons that are face up in your extra deck. You can summon other copies of Meteor Burst Dragon, or if you have an Odd Eyes Vortex Dragon and you own one, you can summon that instead. But overall, there's a lot of just different ladder plays and like loop around plays that involve Meteor Burst, Absolute Dragon, and Pendulum Dragon that are really cool in the essence that it basically functions like a Cosmo ladder, where you're just moving around in like a circle, going up and down in terms of what you're summoning, like going from Meteor Burst into Absolute, Absolutes into Meteor Burst, things like that. And then it like also functions sort of like a rank and level 7 Perform Age engine, where it's just like each card is floating around into something else, and then each card has its own effect on its own. Like this card just negates everything in the battle phase that your opponent does. Your opponent cannot activate effects in the battle phase. Like that's actually just huge. This card is literally the definition of the anti-Cosmo card. They can't activate anything in battle phase, so no Honest, no Farm Girls, no ship summons, no anything like that. And then this is just Utopia. But when you negate the attack, and you can negate anything's attack, when you negate the attack, you just target an Odd Eyes and special summon it. So like this can be summoned off of this, but then this immediately loops Meteor Burst back onto the field, as well as Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragons. Like, there's a lot of different nonsense that happens where this just entirely just functions in a circle, and I really like that interaction. But then the rest of the extra deck is basically just filled out with some cheap rank 4s. You can play a Black Rose as well. I didn't find one to put in the extra deck here, just because like I didn't want to like go out of my way to find a common, because all I have is a Ghost. But I mean, you could play common Black Rose because that's accessible with Noble Dragon. There's a lot of different things that you could play, but obviously your budget is what orients what this extra deck is. I just basically threw some cards in here because they were all cheap and they were all playable and they were all what I had on hand. But Trapeze Magician, Castell, Diamond Dyer, Abyss Dweller, Cowboy, and Rhapsody. I can't find a Utopia Beyond. I know I own one, and the card is extremely cheap as far as I last checked. But Rhapsody just basically is taking the place of Utopia Beyond, because there are a lot of plays that you can make against Cosmo where you summon Absolute Dragon, and then you have 2 4s on the board, so you make Rhapsody and you equip it, and then you're able to negate an attack of something that's left over for Absolute to summon Meteor Burst back out. And so this gets over every Cosmo ship, and then this negates their effects in the battle phase. So like that's the whole point of this. But I mean, obviously Utopia Beyond is just a lot simpler to pull off. I just cannot find one for the life of me. This deck can also support making Trishula if you have one of those. There are a lot of different things that you can fit in the extra deck, but I basically just wanted to keep it cheap, because I mean, this honestly was the least important part of the deck that I was trying to get to work. Mainly everything was all over here that I was trying to work with, specifically for the people that I know did not want to commit the time and money into building the deck properly, in what I would consider proper at least. But for a budget build, this is actually working pretty well to what I expected it to be doing, ultimately. It's got very solid hand potential, and like it's still a Pendulum deck, so if you're playing against people that aren't playing Pendulum variants, like as long as you tweak a couple things around, fill out the rest of the extra deck, you're still going to have a decent matchup against them, because this deck is so inherently powerful as is, because the Magician cards are just so good. And like they're just very good at and prone to generating lots of advantage. So there's that to consider. But anyway, that is all for this video. Let me know what you guys think about this deck profile. If you want me to do more building on budget type things in the future, I'm definitely open to doing them. I don't know what the next structure deck comes out. Oh, the Monarch structure deck is the next one that comes out, so that one should be easy. Maybe I'll do one for that as well. Who knows? I don't even know what all's in that structure deck yet, but maybe. But anyway, as always, guys, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that nonsense. Links are in the description to both my Facebook pages. If you want to connect with me, definitely check those out. That's what they're there for. Clicking that if you have not, I'd greatly appreciate it. Helps me make money, and there's no reason to lie to you guys about that. If you have an ad block enabled, just do me a quick favor, do me a quick solid, disable the ad block, refresh the video, click an ad or two, then put the ad block back on when you're done. It takes seconds out of your day, takes no money out of your pocket, and it helps me out more than you could ever know. And you would have my gratitude, and I'd be greatly appreciative to you if that is something you could take the couple seconds out of your day that it would take to do so, and it would support me more than you could ever understand. But like I said, like this video if you want to see more building on budget things. Obviously the deck is upgradable based off what your card availability, your card pool, as well as other things, accessibility to nonsense, people that want to let you borrow things. Everything's relative. I might do a couple of duel videos with this specific build. Definitely stay tuned and check those out if they go up. I'm not sure. If they do get filmed, they'd probably go up in the same day as this video, actually. But other than that, if you have any questions about this deck or anything that you just have a question about in general in terms of what I might change based off like availabilities and stuff like that, just leave a comment down below and I'll do my best to address them. But other than that, that is all for this video. And as always, guys, thank you for your support and take care.